Hey everyone, so today I am coming to share a little bit of a story time with you, and it's kind of funny. This is the first video I have made about these kind of experiences that I have. So today I want to share with you an angelic encounter that I had actually about 10 or 11 days ago. So it was on December 30th, so 11 days ago now. I want to share with you that angelic encounter. I want to share with you the backstory and kind of what's brought me to share this in a video today. I'm going to tell you about the encounter itself, and then most importantly, how my life has changed and been impacted from that experience since then. And I can look back for 16, 17 years in my journals, and I see myself writing about the same thing over and over and over. And when this came about, which is what prompted me to make this video now, is that I can look back and again, the message is the same. And that was that God was urging me to share the things that He was doing in my life publicly, to share my thoughts, to share my miraculous, as well as, the mundane experiences through my daily walk. And that's been consistent, that I was supposed to be public, authentic, vulnerable, really put myself out there. And I can show, over all of the journals that I've been through, because I journal almost every day, notebooks and notebooks full that just say the same thing, that God was really prompting me to begin sharing these experiences that I have publicly. And I struggled for years with my own limiting beliefs around this. I was so sick. I was sick physically, but even more so, I was sick mentally and emotionally. And I just could not put myself out there, even though I knew, based on my experiences with the church, based on my experiences with other believers, other people who have their own spiritual path, that what I was experiencing, may or may not be. Everybody is amazing and has their own journey, but it wasn't what just everybody was putting out there as their experience. And so I did share to a point and really began to step out and show the changes that were happening in my life, but only to a point. I began singing publicly, which was way out of my comfort zone, speaking, leading women's conferences, teaching classes, starting businesses that would put me, in a spotlight, so to say, or speak, or that would put me in a position to where, I was vulnerable to agree. But in all these situations, the degree to which I made my true inner spiritual experiences public, they were minimal. And I guess on some level, when I really look back, and I even struggle with this now, so I guess it's not on some level, because it is something that I'm working to heal. I just didn't trust the church or my family and friends to understand. I didn't trust them to get me. I didn't trust them to see my experience. And even looking back now, I see I was right to feel that. I was right on some level to really protect my experiential growth with the Lord, because, and I'll go into it in another video and kind of share some of my experiences of what has happened the time that I have shared this kind of thing. But this year, I feel 100% that it is time. It is time for me to put myself out there and to begin sharing these things. I have worked and invested in the inner work and the healing needed to be able to step fully into putting myself out there in a more public way. I've worked on myself and my relationship to my inner man to the point that I know me so much better, than I have in years or any other time, during my life. And I've corrected the inner conversations, the inner talk and the inner relationships that I have with myself, so that while I am still definitely tender and I'm very easily affected, by others, but I'm not so devastated and hurt so that it paralyzes me or causes me to don my hard outer shell, as a means of protecting myself. Through the last 10 years of being a holistic practitioner and working with people on their mindset, on limiting beliefs, on the ways that they hold themselves back, I've also been doing that work to myself. And partly was I didn't have and to the extent, again, this is another video, to the extent that I'm going to be putting myself out there, I just didn't have the time to run the clinic, to run my ministries, teach my classes, and be, a wife and mom and just me, and put out my videos and things like that. And now that I have sold the clinic and I'm shifting, the way my ministry looks and shaping that and really letting that kind of unfold in a very organic manner, I find that this timing is perfect, because I know me now. I'm a better friend to myself. I love myself and I want the best for me so much more. I believe in me. I listen to me, and I do what I need to support myself, even when the choices are hard. All of that, the last 16 or 17 years that I can look back and see my journal saying the same exact thing. I can even remember a vision I had years ago, and I have to look back in my journal to see how many years ago, but this was at least, I would say, 6 or 7 years ago, or it had to be more than that, because it was before I did the clinic, so it's probably more like 11 years ago. Years, time, is not my thing, which is funny because we're going to talk about that. But recently, so I can look back in all my journals, but along with that, I just had this was maybe a couple months ago, I had an ordained connection and conversation with a beautiful lady, Johanna Dawson, and she is very, very intuitive and amazingly spiritual in her own right. Just, I've seen some of her work, and I just felt led to connect with her. And so one day we connected, and we were just having a conversation. And at the end of the conversation, it was the last 5 minutes of the conversation, she really challenged me to put my story out there as it happened. Not to just wait for the finished product, not to wait until my book or my program or my protocol or the latest thing that I was developing, the latest healing technique, the latest energetic discovery, that I've made, not to wait till it's finished, but to put it out there, embarrassing mistakes and fumbles and, my theories and the things that were right and wrong, all of it. And she really challenged me to put that out there, to let people see the process and to let people see the authenticity and the experience that I have as I'm going through, just life. And when she spoke this to me in this conversation a couple months ago, I immediately resonated, and immediately it was just like the Lord just brought to my remembrance hundreds of times that I have journaled and said the same thing and realized that it's coming around again, that the Holy Spirit's echoing, this is time, that it is time. It is time to do that. And so today I began sharing the intimate parts of me, the parts that I rarely share beyond my husband and my most trusted inner circle. And I'm going to begin with an experience that I had last week with an angel. And let me just say that this is not the first experience that I've had, nor would I call it uncommon throughout my years of developing spiritually in my personal being to have this kind of experience. I have lots of very moving and extremely miraculous experiences that up until now I haven't made public, other than, like I said, to my husband or maybe my brother or some of my clients or someone that I was having the experience with, if it was one that was in the flesh or involved someone else. But even my inner things, the things that are done in my own meditation and my own time of devotion, would, like I said, with just my closest husband and brother, those I could trust to see me and to love me and again, not to cast judgment on my experience. So from now on, though, I will work to share these experiences that I have, as well as to share some Storytime videos of the experiences that I've had in the past. I'm going to work to be more authentic, to be more open. I mean, not that I've been fake, but I mean authentic, vulnerable, maybe is the word that I'm putting out there, is to really put these experiences of the heart for other people to know and to hear and to see. And how you take that away, how that affects you, that's not for me to put out there. My job is to be, or my calling in this is to be that obedient, and to step out there. And so on to today's story. Enough of the backstory. So last week, actually it was December 30th. Today's the 9th. I was sitting in my sauna, and I sit for 1 hour almost every day. And I use that time in the sauna because I got to multitask, I don't have a lot of extra time. So I use that time every day to journal, to pray, to do energy work, to heal myself and others, to meditate, and to bring into the physical, the things that I want to see in my life, the desires of my heart, and the things that I believe that God is trying to develop in me. And on this day, I used much of the time in the sauna doing energy work on myself. And while I do all manner of healing, I have to admit that very often I work on the nervous system through the eyes, and I do this on myself. I do this on my clients. Almost all of the clients that I do energy work, I at some point during that session will work on the nervous system, and I usually go through the eyes of the filter of the eyes, because the eyes are a filter. And they're a filter of what we can interpret, as well as the frequencies on the spectrum that our brains cannot interpret, but the body field does. The body field is constantly processing these, and just because we can't see them, or the brain, like I said, doesn't interpret that there, doesn't mean that the eyes aren't filtering out those frequencies just the same. And the eyes are a direct link, a direct download into the nervous system of the body. And so much is missed with the healing, in my opinion, of emotional, mental, spiritual, energetic, and physical when we leave this out, when we leave this link out. And so being such, the eyes are a great doorway to healing trauma and interrupting energetic patterns that make us sick and keep us stuck. And so this day, like I said, I had spent some time. Now, I didn't do it for any reason other than that was just my healing work for the day, that I had spent some time working on my eyes and working on the nervous system. And again, my intention was the nervous system, but I go through the eyes. And so as I finished my energy work and I was ending the healing on my eyes, I was sitting in the sauna with my eyes closed, and it just came, a desire. I was focused, like my mind was on looking at the energetics of the body, watching the flow. And so I was really, really focused on that. But it was like a desire just bubbled up in my heart. It just came up in my heart to be able to see through God's eyes. Now, the phrase to be able to see through God's eyes, now that's a really simple way to put it. And in actuality, the way I expressed it in my inner man, it encompassed an energy that I'm not even able to put into words. But let's see if I can try. It was a desire to see myself more clearly, to be able to operate more fully in my gift of discernment. But not only that, it wasn't just to see what I was asking, but also to do as the eyes of God can see. It's hard to explain. And all I can say is that when I wrote about this in my experience in my journal on 2 different occasions, so I went back before I made this video and I was like, well, exactly how did I write that down? Because I was in the moment. So I wrote it down the day it happened. And then 3 days later, I started putting down some of the changes that I was seeing. And so the way I wrote it, the first time I wrote down that I asked to see clearer spiritually, and the second time I noted it, I wrote to see things through the spiritual or God's eyes. That's the best way I can encompass what I was asking. But again, it also came in, not only from the seeing, but the doing as well. And so upon me expressing this desire to see clearer, I'm in the sauna. Again, I'm doing energy work. I'm focused on that. It just comes in. This desire of my heart just bubbles up, and I expressed it. And I'm immediately, upon me expressing this desire in my inner being to see clearer, I was immediately taken out of body. And as always, on some level, I'm always still aware of my body in this physical state, sitting in the sauna. But my experience out of body is just as solid, if not more so on some levels to me. I went from sitting in the sauna doing my self-healing work and aware of my body with my eyes closed, to being taken out of body. And I found that I was immediately on my knees. So I went from the sauna just feeling this physical body, and immediately upon expressing that thought, I found that I was just on my knees. And it was as if I was immobile, but I wouldn't have tried to move anyway. And as I was kneeling on my knees, I mean, it was just such a fast change from sitting upright straight up in my sauna to being on my knees kneeling, almost immobilized. But before me stood an angel, and although definitely not like our pictures like to depict, this was just an amazing being, an instrument of God performing a healing. And there's just, whenever I'm in the space, my experiences that I've had thus far, I have never had an experience where there was not a knowing. When I'm in this realm, there's just a knowing of who I'm seeing, who I'm working with, what they're doing. And sometimes it's not till afterwards that I process that, but as I'm kneeling there was just a knowing that this was an angel. And different people in different belief structures have different words that they call them, but this all happened so fast, and I felt in my spirit that as I found myself on my knees, I was just completely surrendered to the experience. And about the very second that I processed that I was on my knees and that an angel was with me, the angel reached down and placed a light. Now, I need to say, I also had a knowing right then that this had to do with the desire that I had just experienced. Like I said, there's always just this knowing, this discernment, this knowledge that kind of comes in. But even as this was happening, it's almost like it all happened, in the space of a second. And so it's kind of hard. It takes much longer to share it in words than it actually happened. But the angel reached down and placed a light. And it's very hard to describe, but it felt hard like a coal. And it was about the size of a piece of coal, with the exception that it felt like it sunk in. And the angel, as the angel was standing before me, he put it over my right eye first. And when he put this over my eye, it was just so fast. I mean, I was just on my knees and the angel just reached down. It was just immediate. As he put this over my eye, my right eye, there was an immediate pain. And it was a strong and burning sensation. And this sensation went all through my eye, the physical eye, back into my head and back down in my neck. And I feel, looking back on the experience, that I also felt this moving throughout my body, from the nervous system down my spinal column and throughout my body. But again, this was just, happening really fast. And when the angel did this, I mean, immediately upon touching my eye, I cried out. I mean, I yelled out. I cried out. I wouldn't yell, but it was pain. I was surprised. And even though looking back, I realized that I knew before it happened, I was giving a knowing that the burning away would be painful, I still cried out. And then immediately the angel then placed the light, after the right side sunk in and kind of went through the body, placed it on the left side with the same results, a very strong burning down the left-hand side of my neck, and less discernibly through my body, but it went through my body nonetheless. And immediately, so this was literally on my knees, the angel reached down, my right eye, I cried out, it hurt. And the left eye hurt too, but it was almost like labor pains. I was kind of able to hold myself, in that space of what was happening, and I kind of knew what to expect. But immediately I was right back in my body. I was back in the sauna with my eyes closed, sweating like crazy, 150-degree heat with only 7 minutes left in my hour-long session. Now, anyone can visualize an experience. Anyone can work up in the woo-woo. Anyone can talk all spiritual. But one of the hallmarks for me to genuine spiritual experiences are the changes that come about afterwards. And how does an encounter with God mark a man? How do we know Him more experientially through the vision, or through the experience, or through this out-of-body time that we've had? How do the things of this world fall away when we've come closer and when we've touched God in this manner? And so I want to share the testimony of some of the changes that have happened since this latest encounter of mine. And just a couple of things. I definitely have more clarity. So much more clarity. more sight, more discernment in seeing people and situations. And this was already part of what I operate in constantly. A part of my gifts, part of me being a healer of healers is being able to have that clarity and that discernment. But I would say it's much more broad and more mature in some aspects. I noticed that so much that didn't matter has just fallen away. Things in my life, things just going on. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's just like stuff that I felt like I needed to do, stuff that things I need to call, place I need to go. It's like areas that were a focus all of a sudden just are gone off my radar. I'm able to see, able to more easily like shuck off and throw to the side things that are just a distraction. And that has been awesome. My emotions have been more steady, and I don't even know, like, because I'm a very passionate person and my emotions go all over the place, even though they're not like they used to be in like a destructive way. I'm still very emotional person, but I would say even though now I'm experiencing highs, they're not, I don't know how to explain it. Again, some of these times when the Lord moves in these ways and you have these spiritual experiences, it's really hard to put English words on, but I would say that my emotions have been a lot more steady and stable. I've been the watcher much more easily than before, even though that was something that I practiced pretty consistently. It could identify when I was in a trigger, when I was triggered emotionally, or when I was in a reaction, whether it was a real situation or perceived. I could do that. But I would say that they're a whole lot more steady than really cool habits and disciplines, some that I didn't even know that I needed, because I have a pretty good routines and pretty good disciplines in place. And granted, over the last year and a half, couple years, some of them have fallen off, but I would say that habits and disciplines that I didn't even know were important or didn't even know that I needed have developed naturally and have really easily just kind of fallen into place for me. And so I've really enjoyed that. And this next one, that I want to share, it's a lot harder to explain, and so I'm going to try to explain this concept. But what I can say is that this was such a core part of me, such a core part of my personality for as long as I can remember, that this change, this difference in me can only be described as supernatural. And I am an action person. For those of you that know me know that I'm constantly doing and creating and starting something new. I always start out any project, creation, or business with an urgency to get that project or that thing done. And it feels that I need to get it perfect, done, and launched immediately. And I say perfect, even though I'm not a perfectionist. I say, get it out there. But I say perfect, meaning that I have a point that I feel like it needs to get to. Like I want to put it out there. I want to get it to happen. So maybe that wasn't the best word to put on that, but anyway, that it needs to be done fast. And I've always had the feeling of, there's so much to do, or I'm so behind. I've got to focus on this. And so I immediately have had, from the time I was a young child, I gather all my energy behind it and I perform this energetic push or this energy dump into whatever it is I'm focusing on in order to bring it to manifest into the physical. Now, I definitely noticed since this experience last or 2 weeks ago with the angel, 10 days ago, that now, and again, it's just hard to explain, but now there's a part of myself that's okay with having a human experience that takes time bringing something about. It doesn't feel like I have this urgency to do or to create or to live faster. That each step that I do now is easier, and it's this knowledge that I don't have it perfect yet, and as a matter of fact, I'm only just beginning whatever project or whatever it is I'm doing, but I will get closer and closer one step at a time. And it's that probably encompasses like one step at a time. It's this knowledge of one step at a time. Because I am a doer by nature, or sometimes even more like a hurricane-like force of nature. And this is manifesting like a calm, ordered sense of moving forward. It's very hard to articulate. All I can say is that the change in me is profound and is 100% supernatural. And the last thing that I think that I've noticed of note is time. I have begun seeing the energetics of the construct of time a whole lot different. I can fold it, I can work with it and play with it, and I just have never had the desire really to work with time a lot, but time is just as energetically solid and workable as anything else, as emotions, thought forms, aspects, your higher self, shadow work, physical and energetic healing. The difference is for me is that this has been really fun to start playing around with these energetics, and I fully believe that this is a result of this experience that I had, that God has just kind of given me a different view on the vibration of time and the energetics of time. So, and I'm sure more effects of this angelic healing are to be realized as time goes on, but it's been 11 days, and the shifts that I just shared are some of the most profound and the ones that have stuck out, I guess, to me the most. I can definitely say that my discernment has been upgraded, my knowing feels more solid, and that experientially this is one piece of my life that pulls me to the reality of the things that we don't see having profound effects on the things that we do see. I share this all the time with people. I'm constantly talking about the inner work, the energetics, frequency, things like that, spiritual, other dimensions, things that aspects of ourselves, things that have profound effects. And this has been, again, to say solidly that my discernment of that my knowledge of that, and my ability to work with that have increased dramatically. So thank you for sharing with me. I love you all deeply, and I will have more of these coming forward as I share the things that I've experienced over the last 15, 20 years, different experiences that are kind of cool and that really shaped me and molded my ministry into what it is today, and coolly is in what it's become.